Welcome. I am glad you are here. This is the story of a Reachman hedge-witch, born into the old ways of blood magic and spirit communion, who spent her life healing her people while the Nords hunted her as a monster. It is the story of what happens when you practice forbidden magic in a land that wants you dead, when every spell costs a piece of your soul, and when the only path to survival leads straight toward becoming the thing everyone fears most. You are about to hear a confession from someone standing at the edge of transformation, someone who has watched her grandmother burn, who has healed the dying and cursed the living, who has paid prices you cannot imagine for power she never wanted. This is about the brutal choice between dying human or living as a Hagraven. This is about what it costs to be a witch in the Reach, where the land itself demands blood and the Nords demand silence, and neither will accept anything less than everything. And if you genuinely enjoy this kind of dark storytelling, consider subscribing and liking the channel, but only if it truly resonates with you. Now, let me tell you how I learned to listen to the land, and how the land taught me to become a monster. My grandmother's hands were stained green the day she taught me to listen. Not the green of moss or spring grass, but something deeper, something that smelled like copper and earth after rain. I was 7 winters old when she pressed my palms against the roots of an old oak on the hillside above our camp and whispered the first words of the old language. The tree spoke back, not in words you would understand, but in pulses that ran up through my arms and settled behind my ribs like a second heartbeat. The Nords call us witches, witchmen, savages who dance with demons in the dark. They do not understand that what we practice is older than their precious 9 divines, older than the stones of Markarth, older than the memory of men who forgot how to truly listen. My grandmother taught me hedge magic the way her grandmother taught her, in hidden clearings where the air tasted thick with time and blood. She showed me how to coax healing from poisonous roots, how to seal a wound with nothing but spit and the right words spoken to the spirits dwelling in yarrow stems. She taught me that magic is not something you take, it is something you trade for, always. Nothing comes without a price. I was born into the Broken Ridge clan, a scattered group of maybe 40 souls living in the caves south of Old Hroldan. We moved with the seasons, avoiding Nord patrols, avoiding the Silverblood family's hired swords, who would burn our camps and call it justice. My father was a hunter. My mother wove baskets and spoke to the crows. My grandmother was our hedge witch, the one who tended the sick, read omens in animal bones, and kept the old pacts with the land alive. She never called herself a witch. That was their word, not ours. She was a listener, a speaker between, someone who remembered the ways. When I turned 12, she began teaching me in earnest. The lessons were not gentle. She would cut her own palm and make me taste the blood while reciting prayers to spirits whose names the Nords tried to erase centuries ago. She taught me to bury offerings beneath the roots of sacred trees, to read the future in the way smoke curled from ritual fires, to call small blessings down from the stars that the elves once walked between. This was not the magic the College of Winterhold teaches. This was wild magic, hungry magic, the kind that demanded you give something of yourself every time you reached for it. I learned how to set bones with a poultice made from briar roots and my own spit. I learned to stop bleeding by pressing powdered bone into wounds while whispering the names of the dead who had bled there before. I learned that every spell, every charm, every act of healing or harm costs something. A fingernail blackened and fell off after I saved. A child from fever. My grandmother's hair turned white in a single night after she called down lightning to drive away a pack of wolves. The land gives, but it also takes. That is the bargain. That is what the Nords do not understand when they spit at us and call our ways profane. By the time I reached my 15th winter, I could heal most wounds, speak to the spirits in the stones and trees, and curse a man's crops so subtly he would never know who had done it. My grandmother's hands shook more now. Her eyes had gone milky at the edges. She told me I was ready to take her place when she passed. I told her I was not ready. She laughed, a sound like wind through dry bones, and said no one ever is. That was the winter the Nords came. They arrived in the snow just before dawn, a dozen soldiers wearing the bear of Folkreath, led by a priest of Stendar who carried a torch in one hand and a list of names in the other. Someone had talked. Someone had told them about the old woman in the hills who could curse cattle, who danced naked under the moons, who made pacts with things that should not be named. My grandmother did none of those things, of course, but truth does not matter when fear has made its home in a man's heart. They dragged her from our cave while I watched, frozen, useless. My father tried to stop them. They broke his jaw with the pommel of a sword and left him choking on his own teeth in the snow. The priest called her a servant of darkness. He said she had made pacts with the Daedra, that she had cursed the Jarl's son with a wasting sickness, that her very presence polluted the land. None of it was true. My grandmother served no Daedra. She served the land itself, the old spirits that lived in water and root and stone. But they did not care. They tied her to a post in the centre of our camp and set her on fire while we watched. She did not scream. That is what I remember most. The smell of burning hair and flesh, the way the fire ate through her clothes and then her skin. But she did not scream. She looked at me across the flames with her milky eyes and mouthed words I could not hear over the roaring of the fire and the prayers of the priest. Later, when I was alone, I would realize what she had said. Remember everything. Do not let them erase us. They left her body in the ashes as a warning. My mother tried to gather the bones for a proper burial, and they struck her across the face with a torch. My father's jaw never healed right. He spoke in broken whispers for the rest of his life. The Nords rode away satisfied, believing they had cut out a cancer from the land. All they had done was plant a seed of something darker. I was 15 years old, and I had just watched my grandmother burned. The magic she had taught me still lived in my blood and bones, but now it felt different. Now it felt like a blade waiting to be drawn. The land whispered to me that night, a sound like the rustling of dead leaves, like the scratching of roots against stone. It said what it always says to those of us who listen. Survive. Remember. Make them pay. What do you think really happened here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I would like to know if I am the only one who feels this way. I buried what was left of her bones myself, alone, in a place the Nords would never find. My mother and father wanted to flee, to join another clan farther west where the Silver Bloods had less reach. But I could not leave. The land held me there, like roots wrapped around my ankles. My grandmother's voice still echoed in the wind, in the creak of tree branches, in the sound of water moving over stones. I stayed in the caves. I practiced her teachings in secret. I became what she had been training me to be. But I did it in the shadows, always watching for torches on the horizon. The Nords call it hedge-magic because they think it is crude, unrefined, something practiced by ignorant savages who do not know better. They are wrong. Hedge-magic is the oldest magic, the first magic, the kind that existed before anyone thought to build schools or write books about proper spell forms. It is the magic of blood and bone, of roots that drink from corpses, of spirits that remember when men were smaller and humbler and knew their place in the order of things. It is not clean. It is not safe. Every time you use it, you trade a piece of yourself for power, a memory, a year of your life, the ability to feel joy or warmth or love. The land takes what it wants, and you pay, and you do not complain because the alternative is death or submission. I learned to hide my rituals from prying eyes. I would wait until deep night, then slip into the forest with my grandmother's bone knife and her leather satchel filled with ingredients I had gathered. I drew circles in the dirt using ash from sacred fires. I spoke to the spirits in the old tongue, asking for their favour, offering my own blood or hair or fingernails in exchange for small blessings. I healed a trapper's child who had been mauled by a bear, using a poultice that cost me 3 days of fever and a tooth that rotted black and fell out a week later. I cursed a Nord farmer who had burned a Reachman's home, whispering his name into a bowl of lamb's blood until his livestock sickened and died. The magic worked. It always worked. But it took from me, each time. By my 20th winter, I had become known among the scattered clans. They did not call me by my name anymore. They called me the listener, the bone speaker, the one who walks between. They came to me in secret, bringing their sick children, their dying elders, their requests for vengeance against those who had wronged them. I helped when I could. I turned away those who asked for too much, who wanted power they had not earned, who thought magic was something you could take without paying for it. I was not my grandmother. I was harder, colder. The fire that had taken her had burned something out of me too, something soft that I would never get back. The land spoke to me more clearly now. I could press my hand against a stone and feel the memory of everyone who had bled there. I could stand in a forest clearing and hear the whispers of spirits who had died so long ago their names had been forgotten. The Reach itself was alive in a way the Nords would never understand. It remembered every betrayal, every broken promise, every drop of Reachman blood spilled on its soil. It was angry. It wanted vengeance. And it whispered to me in my dreams, showing me visions of what I could become if I was willing to pay the price. Then the Forsworn began to rise. Madanash, the king in rags, started uniting the scattered clans under one banner, one purpose. Take back the Reach, drive out the Nords, reclaim what was stolen. I did not join them at first. I was not a warrior. I was a healer, a witch, someone who stayed in the shadows and tended to the wounded and whispered curses at enemies from a distance. But the Forsworn needed healers. They needed someone who could mend broken bones without supplies, who could keep men alive long enough to fight another day, who could call on the old magic to give them strength when their bodies failed. I found myself in their camps, kneeling in the dirt beside warriors who had taken arrows to the chest, who had been cut open by Nord steel, who were dying but refused to stop fighting. I saved who I could. I whispered prayers over those I could not save, sending their spirits back to the land so they would not be lost. The Forsworn looked at me with a mixture of fear and reverence. They knew what I was. They knew the price I paid every time I pulled someone back from the edge of death. My hands were always stained now, green and black and red, the colours of magic that does not wash away. The Nords hunted me. Of course they did. A Reach woman practicing forbidden magic, healing Forsworn, whispering to spirits in the dark. They put a price on my head. 200 septims, they said, for the Witch of Broken Ridge, dead or alive, preferably dead. I learned to move like a ghost, sleeping in different places every night, never staying long enough for them to find me. I set traps around my camps, crude things woven from briars and bone that would shriek if disturbed. I called on the spirits of the forest to watch for torches, to send warnings in the form of crows that would land on my shoulder and whisper secrets in a language only I understood, but they were relentless. The Nords do not forgive, they do not forget, and they especially do not tolerate Reach folk who refuse to be quiet and grateful for the scraps of land they are allowed to exist on. I killed my first Nord soldier when I was 23. He had found my camp in the early morning, had crept up while I was performing a ritual, had raised his sword to split my skull open. I turned and threw a handful of powdered nightshade into his face, then spoke a word my grandmother had taught me, a word that should not be spoken lightly. His heart stopped. Just stopped, like a door slamming shut. He was dead before he hit the ground. I vomited afterward, not from guilt, but from the price. The magic had taken something from me, something I could not name, something that left a hollow space behind my ribs that would never be filled again. I dragged his body into a ravine and let the crows have it. That night, the land spoke to me again, and this time its voice was different, louder, hungrier. It showed me visions of women with feathers for hair, with talons instead of fingers, with eyes that burned like coals. Hagravens, the ancient ones, the matriarchs, those who had traded everything, their beauty, their humanity, their very souls, for power that could reshape the world. The Forsworn revere the Hagravens. They call them the mothers, the wise ones, the spirits made flesh. They go to them for blessings before battle, for guidance when the path is unclear, for the creation of Briarhearts when a warrior is willing to trade his heart for strength. I had seen Hagravens from a distance, had watched them perform rituals that made my grandmother's magic look like children playing with mud. They were terrifying. They were powerful. They were everything the Nords feared. And the land kept whispering to me that I could become one if I wanted, if I was willing to give up the last pieces of my humanity, if I was willing to let the transformation take me. I told myself I would never do it. I was not that far gone. I was still myself, still the girl who had learned to listen, still someone who healed more than she harmed. But the Nords kept hunting, the Forsworn kept dying. And every time I used the magic, every time I traded a piece of myself for power, the hollow space inside me grew larger and the whispers grew louder. There are moments, in the deep night, when I stand at the edge of that choice, when I can feel the pull of the transformation like a hand reaching out from the darkness, offering me everything I have ever wanted. Power enough to burn every Nord who has ever lifted a hand against my people. Strength enough to never run again. Magic that would make me something more than human, something ancient and terrible and free. All I have to do is say yes. All I have to do is perform the ritual, offer the sacrifice, let the land remake me in its image. If this story has kept you listening this far, and you want more of these dark confessions from Skyrim, hit that subscribe button. It tells me someone out there is still paying attention to warnings like these. I am 32 winters old now, and I do not recognize the woman I have become. My hair has gone grey at the temples, though I am not yet old. My hands shake when I am not using them to work magic. I have scars that did not come from blades, marks that appeared on my skin after particularly costly rituals, brands left by the land itself to remind me of every bargain I have made. I sleep poorly. I dream of feathers and flight and the taste of human eyes on my tongue, dreams that are not entirely my own. The Forsworn call me a blessing. They bring me their dying and I keep them alive long enough to fight another day. They bring me their wounded and I stitch them back together with magic that costs me more each time. A lock of hair turns white. A fingernail falls off and does not grow back. I wake up one morning unable to remember my mother's face, that memory taken as payment for saving a warrior from sepsis. The land is greedy. The spirits are hungry, and I keep feeding them pieces of myself because the alternative is watching my people die. I know what I am becoming. You cannot walk this path as long as I have without seeing where it leads. The Hagravens were all like me once, women who practiced the old magic, who paid the prices, who gave and gave until there was nothing left to give except the final piece, the core of what makes you human. They made that trade. They let the transformation take them, and they became something else, something powerful and monstrous and eternal. The Forsworn worship them, the Nords fear them, and the land welcomes them as its truest children. I met one once, a Hagraven named Moira, who lived in a grove west of Broken Tower Redoubt. She had been beautiful once. You could still see it in the shape of her face beneath the feathers and scales. She had been a hedge-witch like me, had practiced the old ways, had paid the prices until the prices became too high. Then she made the choice. She performed the ritual with 2 other witches, offered a human sacrifice, spoke the words that cannot be unspoken. The transformation took 3 days. When it was over, she was no longer human. She was something ancient and terrible and free. She looked at me with eyes like burning coals and said I would join her soon. She said she could see it written in the bones, could smell it in the magic that clung to me like a second skin. She said the land had already chosen me, that I was already halfway transformed, that all I had to do was stop fighting and let it happen. I ran from her grove and did not look back, but her words followed me. They always follow me. The Nords came for me again last month. A full squad this time, 12 soldiers led by a priestess of Stendar who carried silver chains and spoke in the voice of someone who believes she is righteous. They found my camp in the hills above Carthwayston. They surrounded me at dawn while I was gathering herbs, moved in with the precision of people who had done this before. The priestess called me an abomination. She said I had consorted with Daedra, that I had poisoned the land with my presence, that I would burn just like my grandmother had burned. I could have run, I probably should have run, but something in me broke in that moment. Something that had been bending for years finally snapped. I looked at the priestess with her silver chains and her righteous certainty, and I felt nothing but rage. Pure, clean, absolute rage. The land felt it too. I felt its anger rising through the soles of my feet, felt the spirits gathering around me like a storm about to break. I raised my hands and spoke words I had never spoken before, words my grandmother had written in blood on a piece of leather and told me to never use unless. I had nothing left to lose. The earth beneath the soldiers' feet turned to mud. Briars erupted from the ground, thorned vines as thick as a man's arm that wrapped around legs and pulled bodies down. I heard screaming. I heard bones breaking. The priestess tried to chant a prayer, but a root punched up through the ground and into her throat, silencing her forever. 3 soldiers managed to cut themselves free and run. The rest died there in the mud and thorns, their blood soaking into the soil, their spirits screaming as the land devoured them. I stood in the center of the carnage afterward, breathing hard, covered in dirt and blood that was not my own. My hands were black up to the elbows. My hair had gone completely white, and I could not feel my legs. The magic had taken them, not literally, but I could not feel anything below my knees, as if that part of me had been erased from existence. The price. Always the price. The land spoke to me then, louder than it ever had before. It showed me the path forward with perfect clarity. I could keep doing this, keep using the magic, keep paying the prices until there was nothing left of me but a hollow shell walking through the world and calling it life. Or I could make the final trade. I could offer what remained of my humanity in exchange for power that would never run out, strength that would never fade, magic that would make me something the Nords could never kill. I could become what the land wanted me to be. If you have ever wondered what choice you would make in a situation like this, tell me in the comments. I will be reading them. I have not made the choice yet. I tell myself I am still thinking, still weighing the options, still clinging to the belief that there is another way. But I know the truth. The choice was made the day I watched my grandmother burn. It was made every time I used the magic, every time I paid the price, every time I took another step down this path thinking I could stop before I reached the end. You cannot walk halfway into the darkness. You cannot bargain with the land and expect to keep your soul intact. This is the truth they do not teach you. This is the price no one warns you about. I am a Reachman hedge-witch, and I am standing at the edge of my own transformation. The ritual components are already gathered. The sacrifice has already been chosen. The words are written in my grandmother's hand on that piece of leather I have carried with me for 17 years. All I have to do is begin. All I have to do is stop being human and become what I was always meant to be. The land is waiting. The spirits are watching. And deep in my chest, where my heart should be, I can already feel the first stirrings of feathers beginning to grow. This is my confession. This is my warning. If you ever meet a Reachman witch in the hills of Skyrim, if you ever see a woman with green-stained hands and grey hair speaking to spirits you cannot see, know that she is standing where I am standing now. Know that she has already paid prices you cannot imagine. And know that one day soon, she will make the choice that I am about to make. We do not become Hagravens because we are evil. We become Hagravens because we are the only ones willing to pay the price for our people's survival. We become monsters so that others might live. And when you see us in our groves, covered in feathers and madness and ancient power, remember that we were human once. Remember that the Nords made us this way. Remember that every monster has a story, and this one is mine. The ritual begins tonight. By morning, I will either be dead or I will be something else entirely. Either way, the woman I was will be gone. Either way, the land will have what it wants. Remember me. Remember all of us. Remember that we were here, that we fought, that we refused to disappear quietly into the night. And when you hear the ravens calling in the reach, know that some of them were women once. Women who loved their families and practiced the old ways and paid every price the world demanded of them until there was nothing left to give but everything. This is the brutal life of a Reachman hedge-witch. This is where the path leads. This is the choice that waits at the end, and I am so tired of running from it.